Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 758, 758, April 21st, 2019, Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. A lot to get to today, so let's go ahead and get with it. Well, it looks like Mitwit Willard Romney is sickened by the dishonesty of President Trump. What the hell does he read? Did he read the same Mueller report everyone else is reading? He is sickened by the dishonesty of President Trump. Well, that's Willard for you. What's Willard's problem? Let me help you with that. Willard wants to be the president. That's right. He's always wanted to be the president, but no one likes him very much. Probably because his name is Willard. And maybe because he ties dogs to the top of his car and kills them. He's too stupid to be president. He's got a lot of problems. He's mad because Trump won and he didn't. He was afraid to fight. That's why he lost. Trump's not afraid to fight, and that's why he won. Do you think Willard is sickened by the dishonesty of the rotten reverend who paid for the dossier? She bought a FISA warrant and a special counsel investigation. Maybe that's what you should have done, Mitt. Of course, she lost, and you probably would have too. Because you're both losers. Do you think he is sickened by the FBI, the CIA, foreign governments running a coup on Trump? Do you think that sickens Willard? I'm thinking not. You know what sickens me? Willard. Well, it looks like Uncle Bob, the executioner, and his Hillary donor posse are going to be facing some scrutiny for taking so long to inform the country that there was no collusion. Oh yes, one of the things we did learn from Uncle Bob's report was about the approximate time that they figured that out. Now I happen to think that if we can get a hold of the phone communications or text communications between Rodenstein, Comey, and Uncle Bob, we'll find out that they had this scheme cooked up, and cooked it up probably right after Comey was fired. And the week before, from the time that Comey was fired to the week that Mueller went in and got the job as a special counsel, somewhere in that week, I'm sure if we get the phone communications and the texts, we will find that Rodenstein, Comey, and Uncle Bob were in communication. And we're probably planning the whole thing. He probably knew from day one it was all bullshit. But because of the Mueller report, we now know that he had figured out at the very latest, that the entire thing was a scam about 3 or 4 months before the midterm elections. But he chose not to come out and tell us all and let us know, hey, there was no collusion. Now, we might still be looking into some other things, but there was the thing about Russian collusion, whatever, it didn't happen. It was all a hoax. That's what he should have done. He never should have been appointed because there was never any proven probable cause for the investigation in the first place, and he knew it. Literally on day one, Uncle Bob should have come out and said, well, I just been doing some Google searches, and it appears that the dossier is bullshit. And that's the reason we're here. And that's the reason we're leaving, because it's bullshit. See ya. It's been fun, it's been real, but it hasn't been real fun. Now, that's what should have happened. At some point, Uncle Bob is going to be facing a lot of scrutiny. I do hope that they call him to testify in front of Congress. I'm sure that Meadows and Jordan and Gates and Ratcliffe are licking their chops to get a shot at Uncle Bob. I know I would. Oh my God, would I love to have a shot at Uncle Bob. Give me my 5 minutes. Oh, I got some questions for Uncle Bob. By the time I get done with him in 5 minutes, they'd be handcuffing him and walking him out the door. That's the questions I have. Maybe I'll write them down and go through them for you. And you'll see what I mean. I could have Uncle Bob indicted in 5 minutes. Now, we know that Weissman and the other female lawyer, the one who represented the Clinton Foundation, were made aware of the dossier back in the summer of 2016, when it was actually being put together. They knew about it, long before they were ever put on the Mueller's team. That's a problem, don't you think? Because that means that they knew it was the rotten reverend that paid for it. They knew it was pipelined by Christopher Steele, and they knew all the sources were bullshit. They knew that they were Western intelligence assets. They knew it all, way back then. Those two need to be SWAT rated immediately. Immediately. You listening, AG Barr? Do not go nice on these people. Look what they did. Look what they did to Manafort. Look what they did to Stone, Caputo, and tried to do to the president. Look what they did to Flynn. These are not nice people, Mr. Barr. The tactics they use should be turned on them. Mueller, Weissman, and this woman, whatever her name is, they should be SWAT rated immediately. A nice 5 o'clock a.m. wake-up call from the FBI. Getting their door kicked in, take every document, take all their communications, investigate these people. They're the real criminals, Mr. Barr. Will Joseph Mifsud finally, honestly, reveal who he was working for? Because we learned a couple of days ago that the Italian government has decided to cooperate. Now, I don't know what we did to get them to cooperate, but they're going to go ahead and cooperate. And then we learn that Mifsud has been holed up just a couple blocks from the U.S. Embassy in Rome, Italy, for about the past year. And it appears that Mr. Rowe, who's co-owner of Link University, where they train spies, where Mifsud was a lecturer, he is not claiming he put up the money for that, but it's being suggested that Link University is footing the bill. Well, he's a co-owner of Link University. So obviously he's kind of paying for it. I'll say one thing. If Mifsud is going to be forced by the Italian government to, because he's going to be deposed by the Italian government, it's my understanding. I would have to assume that there are going to be American FBI agents there. I mean, if we reached a deal with the Italian government that they're going to get to the bottom of Mifsud, then I would have to assume that there are FBI agents headed to Italy right now for that deposition with Mifsud. And they're probably going to want to get the truth from him this time about who he was working for. His lawyer, Mr. Rowe, says he was likely working for Western intelligence, that he doesn't have any Russian connections. Doesn't know any Russians, really. Mr. Timofey and a few other low-level think tankers. Other than that, he doesn't really know anybody of any, stature or authority in the Russian government, and has no real Russian connections. He couldn't give any of them to Papadopoulos, could he? And he lied when he told Papadopoulos that woman, that Polonskaya woman, was Putin's niece. Putin doesn't even have a niece. He has no siblings. Turned out that was likely Mifsud's girlfriend. They better put that guy under 24-hour lock and key and security, I'll tell you that. Because there's a lot of people that want to make sure that Mifsud doesn't talk. One of them is named Mr. Halper. The other one is named Mr. Downer. Probably a bunch of them named Strzok, Page, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Obama, Rotten Reverend, and a whole long list of people that would rather not have Mifsud tell about what he knows. I say put the guy under 24-hour lock and key security, and the FBI better get their asses over there ASAP. And the Italian government can bring him in, sit him down, and get some damn truth out of this guy, because he is key. He's supposedly the guy that told Papadopoulos that the Russians had Hillary's emails. He's going to have to come clean. And if he does come clean, remember, his lawyer is saying basically that in this book that he's writing or has written is going to say, if he hasn't already stated, I don't know if the book's published yet or not, or if it's been released yet or not, but we know from his last statement that he's going to suggest that Mifsud is saying that he was set up. Not only were they setting up Papadopoulos, they set up the setup man. He was set up too. What does that mean? Someone planted the information on him and told him to tell Papadopoulos, but didn't tell him why? Or they somehow led him into that? This guy has a lot of problems telling the truth, and they need to get some truth out of him. And if they do get the truth out of him, and he says, yeah, I was working for the FBI, or I was working for Steele, or I was working for this guy or that guy, Western Intelligence, I was working for Peter Strzok, or whatever it is, John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, whoever, it doesn't matter. He wasn't working for the Russians. I can tell you that. But when they find out who he was working for, this entire thing is blown up, because that's where it all started as far as the Trump campaign and coordinating with Russia is concerned. Mifsud telling Papadopoulos that the Russians have Hillary Clinton's emails. That's apparently what started all these investigations that eventually led to everything else. So when Mifsud comes clean and says, well, yeah, I told Papadopoulos that, but I was told to by probably Halper or Downer or Strzok or Comey or one of these operatives. Mifsud, it's time to get to truth. I hope AG Barr is on that. Well, this is nothing new, but I'll go ahead and tell you anyway because it's getting worse and worse. If you live in this particular city, you probably know better than anybody. San Francisco, as I stated quite a few months back, is a shithole. It is a shithole. And of course, it's getting worse. The last time I told you it was a shithole, it was bad. Now it's much worse. It appears that the poop patrols are not working. They can't keep up with all the poop that they have to scoop. And it appears now, just in the last, I don't know how many period of time this is. I think this is just in 2018. And it's only, what, 4 months into the, not even completely 4 months into the year. They've already had 28,000 calls to the Department of Public Works to complain about the poop that ain't getting scooped by the scoopers. The pooper scoopers, not getting it done. You know what they'll probably do in San Francisco? Allocate a few $100 million more for more poop scoopers. That's how they think. Yep, that's a sanctuary city for you right there. They want to turn all of America into a poop zone. A free poop zone. Come into America, cross the border, poop where you like. We'll just hire a bunch of bureaucrats to scoop it up. Now they won't be able to keep up, but that's okay, because we'll just allocate more money for more poop scoopers to scoop the poop. Don't move to San Francisco. Housing's too high. The rent's too high. The rent's too damn high. So are the piles of poop. You'll be doing the human poop, zippity-doo-dah, skip-de-doo jump thing over piles of poop every day on your way to work. Hop, skip, and jump. It'll be like playing tic-tac-toe on your way to work. Jumping over, dodging around, going around the poop. That's what they want for all of America. That's Nancy Pelosi's home district. What are they known for in San Francisco? Ferries and poop. And Journey. Now, the Gateway Pundit is reporting that Trump and his aides are preparing to declassify the Carter Page FISA and other pertinent Russiagate records following the release of the Mueller report. They're expecting that this will be done and it will come out about the same time as the report from Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz, which they say is about 6 weeks from now. And of course, Trump has just tweeted yesterday, a storm is coming. Time to turn the tables. You better believe it. You better believe it. Well, here's a bizarre twist. It appears that CNN.com, not to be confused with your regular CNN, this is their online magazine edition of CNN, CNN.com, a writer over there named Scott Jennings is shifting the blame from Russian meddling from Trump to Obama and Susan Rice, saying in his article that this looks bad for Obama. He's stating that Russia meddled while Obama and his administration did nothing. They did nothing, and that would include Comey, Brennan, and Clapper, just as I said yesterday. It was Susan Rice, who we reported right here on TowerGate quite a while back, that told her staff to stand down on taking any measures against Russia because they needed Russia to go along with the Iran deal. Susan Rice, the unmasker, who also has a lot of problems and should probably lawyer up. Susan Rice gave a stand-down order to her staff, and they were not happy about that and taking measures against Russia because they wanted Russia to go along with the Iran deal. It's been reported a long time ago this reporter now from CNN, who's probably been fired by now for writing this story, has finally caught up to that. I reported that about a year and a half ago. Okay, let's see. Well, it appears that the Mueller report release, since the Mueller report has been released, Trump's donations have increased by 250%. He now has a campaign war chest for 2020 that's well over $30 million. That's $30 million. And he'll raise a lot more. He'll raise a lot more when Uncle Bob gets back up out of the rabbit hole. Well, you know, Giuliani gave an interview to the Washington Examiner on the 12th of April, on the 12th of April, and in that interview, Giuliani said, quote, Julian Assange could expose a plot involving Ukraine to falsely accuse Trump of colluding with Russia. Let me say that again. Quote, Julian Assange could expose a plot involving Ukraine to falsely accuse Trump of colluding with Russia. And Giuliani said, keep your eye on Ukraine. Oh, I am, Rudy. Every day. Every day. But what he's suggesting here is a little bit different from what I've been looking at. I never really have tied Assange to the Ukraine thing because I believe that Assange got his information from Seth Rich. But what Giuliani would be suggesting here is that the Ukrainians actually fed this information or fed something to Julian Assange. Now, I don't know if Giuliani is suggesting that Ukraine had anything to do with getting the DNC emails. I'm not sure exactly what the angle is there. Don't know why Ukraine would get the DNC emails and Podesta's emails and then give that to Julian Assange to leak. I don't know exactly how that would be helping Hillary, so I'm not really sure about that angle, if that's what he's talking about, unless he thinks that Assange has some other information about what was going on in Ukraine, which we've been discussing. Maybe he thinks Assange can reveal what was going on in Ukraine. Maybe he thinks Assange has some information on that. But I mean, we really don't necessarily need Assange because there's a prosecutor, the top prosecutor in Ukraine, is currently working on that. The number 2 man at the NABU, which is the Ukraine version of the FBI, has already been convicted of working with the Right Reverend Clinton, the DNC, the State Department, the U.S. Embassy, in an effort to hurt Trump and help Hillary in the 2016 election. And there's more coming. The investigation continues. The only reason it's been thwarted is because up until now, the prosecutors who've been wanting to come over here and begin working with U.S. authorities to try to sort this out have been blocked. We will see if Attorney General Barr will now consult with and allow this prosecutor to come over here and get together. And he needs to, because this is a very important part of the story. Ukraine was the genesis of the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. That's where it all began, in the Ukraine. So we'll continue to watch this and see where it all goes. And maybe Giuliani knows something. I don't know. How Assange connects to what was going on in Ukraine is puzzling to me. But we'll have to see what happens with that. So we'll keep following that. And if any of you have any clues as to what Giuliani's talking about, leave it in the comments section. Well, it looks like the Department of Justice has told Jerry Nadler to pound sand on getting a fully unredacted copy of the Mueller report. They're responding back to his letter, to him with a letter of their own, saying that his request is premature and unnecessary. Premature and unnecessary. In other words, pound sand, Jerry, you a-hole. I don't like him very much. Paul Sperry. Paul Sperry. Many of you are familiar with him. Many of his stories are in my timeline. He's done great work on the 2016 coup. Some of the best stuff we've learned is from Paul Sperry. He seems to have some pretty good contacts. Now, Paul Sperry is suggesting that when we receive certain declassified DOJ documents, that we are going to learn that it's possible, very likely, that Michael Gaeta was Mifsud's handler. Michael Gaeta, Mifsud's handler. Let's think about that one for just a second. Okay, so what do we know about Gaeta? Well, Gaeta and Christopher Steele became acquainted back during the FIFA investigation and the International Soccer League for all sorts of corruption that was going on there. That's when they first met. Gaeta is the section chief of the FBI in Rome, Italy. The same place as Link University, the same place where a lot of things were going on, the place where Mr. Mifsud is a lecturer and professor at that spy school. Now we know that there were 2 meetings where Christopher Steele went to Rome, Italy, and met with Gaeta, both in the summer of 2016. The first time, it was just Steele and Gaeta and maybe a couple other of the locals there at the FBI headquarters there in Rome, Italy. But the second time they met, we know that a group of FBI officials came over from the U.S. and joined in on the meeting, and there were quite a few of them. I think it's pretty safe to assume that one of them individuals certainly would have been Peter's been stroking us. Possibly Priestep would have been there. Not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure Ben Strokinus would have been there. And this is where Steele was informing Gaeta, and Gaeta was, the first time Steele goes there, and he informs Gaeta, and then Gaeta sends this information back to the U.S., back to the FBI in the U.S. This gets their attention. And they decide to set up a second meeting. So they set up a second meeting. The FBI compensates Steele for his travel. He goes there the second time. FBI agents from the U.S. come over and join the meeting. There's quite a few of them in the meeting. We have not gotten all their names, but I think we can be pretty sure it would have been the people who would have been running the investigation there stateside, which would have been, of course, Peters Mistrokinus, McCabe, Priestep, and the whole crew. How many of them were actually there that came into Rome, I don't know, but we can assume that Peters Mistrokinus might certainly have been one of them. He was leading the investigation. So we can see here all this activity going on around Rome, Italy. I think it's very likely that the paths of Mifsud and Gaeta probably crossed. It's very likely that Mifsud is a asset for the FBI in Rome, and that his handler is Gaeta. That is very, very likely. When you look at the characters and you look at where they were all kind of hanging out there in Rome, Italy, around Link University, and of course we find out now that Mifsud himself has been living just 2 blocks down the street. A lot of things that were going on around in Rome, Italy in the summer of 2016, and a lot of these characters that we're learning about, Steele and Gaeta and all these other characters, Mifsud, were all kind of in that general area, all engaged in activities that have something to do with spying. And they all hated Trump. Went out to get him. Kind of adds up, doesn't it? I'll be interested to see these declassified documents. Maybe Sperry has a source that's already told him that this is something we're going to learn. Maybe the FBI already knows that. If that's the case, then we need to find out what Uncle Bob, the questions that he asked Mifsud. Uncle Bob is saying that they questioned Mifsud, but they think he was lying to them. I find it hard to believe that Uncle Bob wouldn't know that Mifsud was working for them, unless he was working for another intelligence agency, and Gaeta knew about that, but didn't pass that information along to their main headquarters or to Strzok or anyone else. Maybe that was run as a parallel operation, and he wasn't commenting on it. Or maybe he wasn't aware of it. Hard to say. That's why Mifsud needs to be completely dressed down and interrogated. And Gaeta, we need every 302 from Gaeta. All of his 302s from his meetings with Steele, other FBI agents, and anyone involved in this diabolical, highly illegal plot. Speaking of Mifsud and Stephen Rowe, Stephen Rowe, of course, is a friend, business associate, and, as far as we know, the attorney representing or speaking on behalf of Mifsud. And we know that Stephen Rowe says that Mifsud was likely a Western intel asset and never really had any connections to any Russians. No Russian contacts. Did you know that Stephen Rowe was detained at JFK Airport in New York in October of 2017? Yes, that's right. He was detained by the FBI in October 2017 when he came into the U.S. Rowe says he was not asked a single question about Mifsud. He thought that's exactly why they pulled him aside. He thought, uh-oh, this must be about Mifsud. He even asked him, he said, is this about Mifsud? He's a great guy. I know him well. And they're like, no. They had no interest in talking to Rowe about Mifsud. Maybe they wanted to talk to Rowe about his wife. She is a Russian clothing designer. Fairly high profile, designs really high-end women's clothing in Russia. And I believe she is Russian. Maybe that's why they wanted to talk to him. Maybe they were trying to see if maybe his wife could make up a dress for their wives or something. Maybe they were going to discuss golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. And dressmaking. They certainly had no interest in asking him about Mifsud. Why not? I mean, in February, the following February, they interview Mifsud, and they say he was lying to them. So Rowe says they weren't the least bit interested in Mifsud. Didn't ask him a single question. And until he volunteered, hey, is this about Mifsud? They never brought it up. And even when he brought it up, they just had no interest in talking about Mifsud. Rowe has written a book. I don't know if it's been published yet or not, but he's either written a book or he's writing a book where he is going to claim that his friend Mifsud was set up by the FBI and Western intel officials. And Rowe described Mifsud as a Clintonist. A Clintonist. That's strange. Claiming that Mifsud is telling Rowe that he feels that he was set up. Now, is that unusual that intelligence officials use intelligence assets and set them up in order to set up another type of frame-up or setup? Do they use them, set them up to set up a setup? Oh, sure. They do it all the time. We saw that in 1990 with the World Trade Center bombings. The guys who blew up the building there. World Trade Center the first time. That was a setup. They set up the imam there, the head guy, to set up the guys who would later be given the explosives by the FBI, showed how to use them, and then given complete access to go ahead and pull off the job. Only so the FBI could swoop in and arrest them later. That's a whole other story. So does it blow my mind, or does it confuse me to think that Mifsud may be telling the truth when he says that somehow he was set up to be part of the plan to entrap Papadopoulos? Did they play Mifsud the same way they were playing everybody else? It's very likely they played Mifsud. Very likely. And if they did, then he should be quite angry. And he should maybe tell the truth. Well, after all this time, it appears that Madam Botox, Nancy Pelosi, and other Democrats are being forced to admit that there is a crisis at the border. So we've got Pelosi now, Sanders, Commie Bernie, Tim Ryan, the Democrat from Ohio that's been trying to take out Pelosi now for about 2 or 3 years, now having to claim and state that, yeah, there is a crisis at the border. A little late to the dance, don't you think? Of course, they're all going to say, well, yeah, there's a crisis at the border because Trump created it. No, I don't think so. It's been a crisis there long before he came along. That's why he campaigned on fixing it. Go back and watch the 2016 campaign, Nancy. You'll see that Trump constantly talked about the broken border, the bad situation at the border, the dangerous situation at the border. He talked about it a lot. It's one of the two issues that got him elected. It's how he won those blue states. Immigration and trade policy are the two things that put Trump over the top. Everything else they've heard before from Republicans. Tax cuts, regulations, that's all stuff they hear every 4 years. What was different was Trump talked about immigration and trade. That's how he won those blue states. Immigration was a major part of his campaign. He was talking about long before he was president. It's been a problem for a long time, Nancy. Can't blame Trump. It's our policies that motivate people to take advantage of us. Chain migration, the lottery, and of course the Flores settlement, which allows people to come to our border with a kid. And once they come to the border with a kid, they're home free. Bad policy is why we have a crisis at the border, Nancy. And you've been around for what? 350 freaking years? You've been around since the woolly mammoth in Washington and helped create policies that have led to the crisis which Trump is now having to deal with. He's cleaning up your mess. Just like the mess you have in your city in San Francisco. He's cleaning up your poop, Nancy. It's all Trump's done since he's been president, is trying to clean up your mess. And all your friends. Well, we have Eric Swalwell. He's chickened out on a debate challenge by Dana Loesch on, of course, the gun issue. That's her main issue. And that's the issue he's going to run for president on, which is why he's going to be blown out quickly on the trail. I don't think he'll be around 3 months from now. The Democrats do not want to hear that message at election time. They know it's extremely unpopular. They'll lose a lot of seats if they start talking about the gun issue, especially the way Swalwell wants to come just take your guns, period. I mean, he doesn't even make any bones about it. He wants to come and take the guns, all of them. And if you don't like it, he thinks that they can nuke gun owners. Yeah, we'll just nuke the gun owners. This guy's a nut, and he's a coward. He won't debate Dana Loesch. She would smoke him. And I don't even really like her that much, but she'd smoke him. Now, we have Nigel Farage. Created a new political party called the Brexit Party about a month ago. It now is the most popular party in the UK. And when you take his party, the Brexit Party, along with his old party, UKIP, and you combine them together, they are by far the largest party in the UK, and are probably, in the next election, as soon as they decide to have one, and they should do so soon, they will likely bring a lot of seats into the parliament. And I'm not sure about the EU elections, how that's going to go. I assume they're going to go ahead and stand for EU elections. Brits are going to stand for EU elections. I assume Farage will be coming back. I don't know. But basically, that tells you a lot when you can start a brand new political party and literally in less than a month it rises to be one of the most popular parties in the country. That tells you how people are feeling in the UK. The establishment in Great Britain, both the Liberal Democrats and the Tory Party, the Conservative Party, they're headed for a serious butt kicking. Let's put it that way. They're headed for a serious butt kicking. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.